Welcome to Collaboration Conversations. I am your host, Regina Partain Bergman, CEO of Bridgeport Strategy. Once again, I am delighted to bring you a guest co host today and the panelists that she has brought to the show. So let me quickly introduce my guest co host today, Melissa Deely. Welcome, Melissa. First of all, welcome. Thank you for being co host today.
Thank you so much, Regina, for having me. I'm excited to be here, and thank you to all of these panelists that said yes
Yes.
to my invitation.
I am so excited to meet all of them. So let me tell you folks just a teensy bit about Melissa, and then I'm going to have her tell you more. But she is an integrative mind body health practitioner and health coach, and the host of Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. I love that. And if you go read her about page on her LinkedIn profile, you will understand that title and learn a lot about Melissa from that. So, Melissa, please share a bit with our audience about your journey getting to this place, who you serve, and why that's important to you.
Well, thank you, Regina. And I'm just going to give the very short version of my journey of getting to this place. I was in the corporate world for 24 years, had a wonderful career, loved it, until one day, big fish bought little fish, and I was out of a job. And I was given an hour to clear out of my desk and no word of thanks. And in that moment, I knew three things. I didn't want to work for someone else again. Whatever I did next had to be more of service to humanity and the planet. And I had no idea what that would be. But I was open to being guided. And I was guided into health and wellness through both of my daughters having concussions at very similar times, 2 months apart, and me not working full time. And so I stepped into guiding their healing journey. And that was the start of my health and wellness journey. And before long, I was just organically asked to help other people. And then I was asked to work in a clinic. And I wanted to do all of this, except I couldn't get insurance because I had no certification. So that sent me back to school. And from the moment I got into health coaching school, I knew that I had found my purpose, my passion, and that this was how I could serve humanity. And I just kept putting one foot in front of the other and following this path and adding to my learning because I was so enamored by the fact that I was in my 40s and I didn't know this about my own body. And yet now I could learn this and so much more. And so now I have this wonderful career. I jokingly call myself the friendly toxin slayer because I use all of the tools to help people detox their physical body, mental body, emotional body, spiritual body, so that they can live a full and vital life in optimal health. And another piece of this journey was self-development. And I'm also a Girl Guide leader. And I took my Girl Guides to watch a documentary 11 years ago now, and it was called Girls Rising. And it was a documentary about girls fighting for the right to go to school because they were being denied simply based on their gender. And I'm sitting in a room with 20 tweens, my own 2 daughters included at this point, realizing every single one of them, myself included, had faked being sick so we didn't have to go to school at some point in our life. We had taken our education for granted. And I had tears running down my face, listening and watching the stories of these girls that desperately wanted an education and were being denied. And I knew that something needed to change. And I knew that I needed to do something. I had no idea what that was going to be. And so that was mulling around in the back of my head, even in the last couple of years of my corporate career. And so when I got let go, everything happens for us, right?
Yes.
Here was the opportunity for me to step into my personal growth. And I went to a conference where the speaker said, we're all placed on this planet to find our purpose, never stop learning, and be of service. And that really resonated deeply with me. And then he said, you don't have to know how, you just have to know your why. Mm-hmm. And that's when I went, oh, I know my why. And now I just need to speak it and share it, because as I speak it and share it and put it out there, the resources will come. And sure enough, within a month of that conference, we launched Girls Matter. So I am a co-founder of Girls Matter. And our focus is to keep girls in school, stop teenage marriages, ensure that the girls have the menstrual supplies they need so they can go to school every week of the month. And we've expanded beyond that, which I know we'll talk about later in the show. So I just want to leave it there and start introducing the rest of our panelists so that we can have a really beautiful conversation about the
Awesome.
collaboration that has come out of all of this.
Awesome. Yes, please do introduce each of them. Have them share about their journey, who they serve, and why.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So I'm going to ping pong it over to Jan Jansen, who's in this room. She is the one that I have known for the longest, which is still only 4 years. And she's like I call her my fairy godmother. And I'm going to let Jan introduce herself and just share who she is and how we came to meet and how we come to work together now.
Thank you, Melissa. And I, even though I have heard your introduction so many times, I still love it every single time I hear it. So my name is Jan Jansen. I live in rural British Columbia, and I have been an entrepreneur for over 40 years. I bought my first franchise at 19, and it was an incredible experience because I learned one definite thing about business. I never wanted to have employees again. And so that was a great lesson to learn at such a young age. And it really did mold my entrepreneurial career. So from there, I did a number of different things, all kinds of crazy things and wild things. And some of them were definitely out of the box. For example, I started a pole dancing business in 2004 when it was all the rage to do that. At the same time, I also became a minister. So the media dubbed me the pole dancing minister, which was really interesting. I had 4 businesses in the automotive industry, which was super tough. So the common theme throughout my entire life is sales. As a matter of fact, I started training in sales at 6 because I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness and spent 38 years as one. And I don't know if there's a tougher training ground for sales than going from door to door selling watchtowers and awakes.
Yeah.
So that was where I started selling. And then my first husband and I became missionaries. We went to Ecuador and we served in Ecuador for 4 years. Came back and there was some disillusionment with the religion I had. And it was amazing because I lost that everything when I decided at 38 years of age that I didn't want to be part of it anymore. And then literally 9 months later, my husband said to me, I don't want to be married to you anymore. So, and then Ford, who was my biggest customer, said, and we're taking you out of our program because you're costing us too much money. So literally I lost everything. And there's something about having to start over again, Regina, and everyone that's listening. Sometimes it's tough because when you lose everything, you really have to decide, who do I want to be when I grow up? And that's what I had to do. So one of the things that I was very, very committed to was humanitarian work. Through all of this, I ended up going to Africa, ended up volunteering, and saw a very different world and realized that that needed to make a difference. And then when I met Melissa, it seemed like a good match because of her work with Girls Matter. And today I focus really on women entrepreneurs. My tagline, trademark, is 6 figures is the new minimum wage. And what's fascinating is that 88% of women entrepreneurs don't earn $100,000 in their businesses, and only 1.7% earn $1 million. So 6 figures is the new minimum wage because in today's world, we need to have enough money to take care of ourselves, but also to be able to do the humanitarian work that I'm able to do helping out Melissa.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Beautiful.
Melissa?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jan. And I love your story and, that piece of starting over. That's kind of how I felt in my career. I saw it as a second chance and was saying, what do I do with the second half of my career? Just like you were asking, who am I going to be when I grow up? Yeah. And these are great questions to ask ourselves. So now I'm going to move over to Dr. Michelle Greenwell. And Michelle, I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself, how we came to meet, and how you've supported Girls Matter as well.
Thank you, Melissa. And it's wonderful to be here. Melissa and I met through High Vibe Leaders, and we've interacted on several different ways. With Girls Matter, my sister also supports a family in Malawi and is supporting by helping that family so that they can help the rest of the village. And so that's the Mission for Change, Stephen Moyle's Mission for Change. And so we've worked a little bit collaborating back and forth with that, and that through a tea company. So I have the Cape Breton Tea Company, and being able to see my teas go out and to support in different endeavors has been really interesting. I never imagined I'd have tea conversations in that way. But Melissa and I've been sharing some of that, and that's been a lot of fun to see new ways to think about tea beyond what I already thought was new ways to think about tea. So that's been a really great way for us to get to know each other. I live on the other side of Canada, so I'm in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. And I'm in a very rural area next to the ocean. It's beautiful here. And I'm really getting to know the landscape and the herbs that are here. My background has been in dance, and I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a serious entrepreneur for over 40 years, but I realized in my childhood, I was doing that all along while being an educator, because I educated the whole neighborhood at the same time as well. So that seems to be my call. But I did lose the ability to walk in my 30s, and I had to teach dance from a chair, and I had to have people demonstrate for me. And that's when I was introduced to Touch for Health and the idea of using movement to heal the body. So as you see that I'm Dr. Michelle Greenwell with a CIH behind that, that means complementary and integrative health. My specialty is movement to heal the body. And I've realized that so many of us are now paralyzed behind computers or behind steering wheels in cars. And we really have lost our language about movement and what it means, but also how it is part of our healing process. So that's where I spend a lot of my time, along with tea. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to the rest of the conversations.
Thank you, Michelle. And it's perfect timing too, because Michelle's episode on my Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast is coming out this Saturday. And we are talking about being intentional with teas. So people can check that out. And now I'm going to go into the center of the screen here and have Billy Odme introduce herself. We met just over a year ago now and have knew we loved each other immediately, call each other sisters from a different mister, and are partners in our training business now. And so, Billy, I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so excited to be here. Anytime Melissa asks me, do you want to? She doesn't even need to finish the sentence. I say yes. Sure. Because I love what she stands for. Like she said, we met last year at our training course, and we instantly hit it off. We were at the top of our class in different areas, and it just made sense for us to collaborate and work together to offer these trainings to other coaches and other people in our world. A little bit about me. I'm a single mom of two, which I don't know, you might see them walking around. They're over there. They're 7, and he just turned 9 yesterday, or 2 days ago now. I've been a police officer for the last 20 years here in Vancouver, BC. And from the time I was born, I know I was meant to serve. I was always wanting to do things for other people. I went to school to be a teacher. Didn't really work. I didn't like the public school system. I knew I didn't want to be a high school teacher because I knew the kids would all be taller than me because I'm only 5'2". And so it didn't really work out. So I became a police officer because I was always interested in what police were doing. And I always liked making sure that no one got away with doing bad things to people. And I wanted to serve. And it, to me, was the ultimate job of service. And it was great. And I felt like I helped a lot until I didn't. And policing's changed a lot in the last 2 decades since I joined. And I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. And then when I had kids, I just didn't want to go back because obviously there's an element of danger in that job. And, they were now my priority. And so, as Melissa says, you put things out to the universe and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. If you had told me I'd be doing what I'm doing now, I'd probably laugh in your face because I'd be like, I arrest bad guys for a living. I don't teach about the higher self and the unconscious mind. I didn't even really understand what that was. That being said, I was always into personal development. I loved learning. I loved growing. I always wanted to do things and up level myself. And I was always stuck. And now I know why. It was because I wasn't in touch with my unconscious mind. And now that I know what I know, it makes so much sense about why people get stuck in their lives and they're not living their highest potential. Like Jan says, why should women not have 6 and 7 bigger figure businesses? Why shouldn't we? And it's because we just don't know what's getting in our own way. So my tagline for my company, which I'm now the CEO and founder of Go Mindspire, is I just help you get out of your own way. Because that's really all it is. You know, we talk about living in victim island and moving people over to solution city, whereas life is happening for you as opposed to you. And it's shifted my entire world. I went through my what we call breakthroughs last June, and my life has entirely shifted. I didn't think I'd be retiring from policing, and I am next year. I'm on leave right now. I'm also a real estate investor that has taken off, which has now allowed me to actually take a leave of absence. And of course, my little one needs some attention. Hi. Yes, you can. They have the perfect timing. They know when I'm on, they can come and ask me a question for a treat because they know I'll say yes. Yeah, so I fell in love with this work. It just came naturally to me, and now I know I went to school to be a teacher is because this is what I meant to teach. And it comes so I'm so fulfilled. The amount of messages I get from the students that we teach, the people that I work with about how their life has shifted. And it was just simple little shifts. And I literally have a button on my desk, you know, the easy button, because people are like, it's really that easy? Yeah, it is. It's literally neurology. So if your brain can go this way, we can train it to go that way and go in the direction that you want to go to as opposed to the direction that's not working for you any longer. So yeah, Melissa, when she again told me about Girls Matter, I love giving back. And again, she didn't even have to finish the sentence. She's like, Billy, do you want to include Girls Matter? Yes. I didn't even had to know what it was. So 10% of all of our sales that we sell in our coaching programs now also goes towards Girls Matter, which I love because my motto is get big to give big, and we want to share that with people and allow coaches to become more profitable so that they can give back. Because when the coaching industry is blowing up, and at the core of it is because they want to help. And so we can help them help easier and better and more profitably, then in turn help other girls that, like she said, just want to go to school. I mean, it's such a beautiful collaboration. So I'm super excited to be here, and thank you, Melissa, for having me. And so lovely to meet all of you.
Absolutely my pleasure. And I know there's going to be lots of connections after this as well as you're all hearing each other's stories. So thank you, Billy, for being the awesome business partner that you are. I truly appreciate you. And I'm going to move over to Laura Witkoff now. We only met a couple months ago at a podcasting event. And I heard Laura introduce who she was and what she does. And I sent her a message and in the chat. And then since then, we've connected, we've recorded a podcast together. And Laura, I would love for you to share what your mission is with your podcast because it's so powerful.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, Regina, for organizing all of this, and all of you, because as I listen to your stories, I continue to get inspired. So I'll try to be brief, but I love hearing about it. And I agree with you, Melissa, there's going to be a lot of connections. So I am a social worker by training, and I have a doctorate in social work that came more recently, although I've been a social worker for the past 35 years. And I worked both in the corporate setting and the nonprofit setting. But I, like Billy, you sort of talked about your interest in teaching. I always enjoyed teaching, but it was never my permanent calling at that point. But I started teaching about 14 years ago in a business school. I was probably the only social worker in a business school at Suffolk, and I found I loved it. And so I was still working at a nonprofit, loving that, doing training, doing what's called organization development, working very specifically in public health at that point in in providing consulting and coaching and board development and sort of the typical organization development work. And I decided when I went back to school to get my doctorate that I really wanted to focus on the smaller nonprofit sector, because what I was finding in my work was that nonprofits traditionally can't use any public dollars to advertise or market themselves. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world can nonprofits stay alive? Like any business, you have to market in order to get business and grow business. So I ended up doing my doctorate at USC. I live in Los Angeles now. I had been on the East Coast before in Boston. And as I was getting my doctorate and testing it out, I had built on Edward Deming's work on continuous improvement and helped my nonprofits I was working with to learn about messaging and get their message out there in a way that they could do it free. So through social media, which is what we access as much as we can. And certainly that's blown up since I've done my doctorate. And then COVID hit. And I thought to myself, what in the world can I do for these smaller nonprofits to help them grow that isn't going to tax them, because they're worried at this point of keeping their doors open like everybody else was. So a lot of things went online, including my teaching. I continued to teach. I teach at USC still. And so I somehow came up. I had a turning point in my life. I had a terrible bout with vertigo, believe it or not, and was on steroids, which actually most people hate. I think it did me justice at that point. And I created a podcast called Small and Gutsy. And I decided to focus on nonprofits and social enterprises that are doing good in the world. Well, most nonprofits are, but social enterprises really do give back. That's part of what their mission is. And I focus with organizations under 10 million. Once they reach about 5, 6, 7, they can do a lot of their own marketing. But I offer, and I became a nonprofit myself, so I'm a volunteer executive director leading this. And I have the incredibly great privilege of meeting many people like you, and certainly Melissa with Girls Matter, and learning all about the amazing work that others are doing. And my mission is really simple. It's to spotlight and elevate as much as possible these smaller nonprofits and social enterprises to spread their impact as far and wide as I can. So I have an Instagram, I post it, I give the interviewees the raw podcast if they want it. They can post it on their social media. I give them the finished product. I put it on Instagram, and I constantly am producing as much as possible. So I've enjoyed it. It's been an incredible journey for me. It is an incredible passion because I meet wonderful people doing amazing work all over the world. And so I'm really grateful. And I'm really grateful to you, Melissa, for bringing Girls Matter to my attention. And we're going to release your podcast within the next month or so. And I'll give you a heads up, and everybody else. And please tune in, because Melissa does a beautiful job, as you all can imagine, in sharing her story. So thank you for having me. I just love the work I do, and I love all of what you all are doing as well.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. And thank you for helping nonprofits have more visibility, because you've literally found that niche and something that is very needed. And so, yes, I truly appreciate that and look forward to collaborating more. And that leads me to the lovely Vier. Welcome to the show. And Vier and I met through a student of Billy's and mine, actually, who connected us. And I applied to be on her Holistic Sister Circle podcast. And then we had a meeting, and I got to know more about who she is, what she stands for, the community she's building, which of course is all about health. And that's the other piece of what's so important to me. And you can see on the sign behind me, health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And so I loved what Vier was doing. And so I invited her to be here as well. If you could introduce yourself and share with everyone, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thank you everyone for just having me. I'm just so grateful to be here and honored. Regina, thank you for putting this together. Melissa, thank you for the invite. But a little bit about myself. So 9 years ago, I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, constipation. And during that period of time, I was also working in very high stressful positions, sales, marketing, and customer success. So a lot of anxiety, a lot of just not really knowing exactly how to control the nervous system and not really knowing how to understand my emotions at that time either. And when I was diagnosed with IBS over the years, for me, it was very difficult because I didn't have a community that I could connect with. I didn't really understand the emotional portion of it and why I was having these challenges. All I knew is that every year my symptoms were getting worse. And I would talk to family members, I would talk to friends. No one really understood what I was going through. But at every family event, it was like, why can't Veer eat the fried chicken or the pork and beans? And for me, it was one of those things where I'm just like, I literally can't because I have no idea if I'm even going to be able to get out of the bed the next day. So it got to the point where my symptoms became super severe. And last year, I was on a work call. So I used to work for an advertising agency, and I was on a work call with a client. And I remember I was super lightheaded, and I told her, I said, you know what? I don't know what's wrong with me right now, but I'm going to have to call you back. And I grabbed my keys. I walked to the door, got into my car, drove to the nearest hospital. And as soon as I got to the doors, I collapsed. And I was shaking uncontrollably. And all I could think about while I was on the floor was, they're going to run all these tests. They're not going to know what's wrong with me, and they're going to send me home. And in that moment, all of these people were coming over. They were putting their hands around me. They were trying to calm me down. And that's exactly what happened. So they put me into a room. They ran all these tests, and they said, we don't see anything wrong with you. And by this time, this was the 9th specialist that I saw. So I decided that I said, okay, well, what would you recommend? Because at this point, I was also having cystic ovaries as well. And I wasn't sure if I was having a rupture or if this was an IBS symptom. And they had recommended that I go to a gynecologist. And I did. Wasn't able to schedule an appointment for almost 6 weeks later. So I was just trying to figure it out on my own. And by the time I started connecting with that gynecologist, she had recommended that, I asked her, I said, what are my options here? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about the symptoms, but now it's gotten to a point where I need to know, like, what are my options for even having children? Like, what do my fertility options actually look like? And she said, well, your uterine lining is too thin to even carry a child. And for me, that really broke my heart because I felt like that was like the biggest thing that I've always wanted to do, was to have children. And I wasn't sure if I would even be able to. So she recommended that I get on birth control. And I said, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of why I'm asking you to thicken this. So she said, well, you know what? We actually don't learn about alternative medicine in medical school. So if this is something that you want to learn more about, you're going to have to go somewhere else. And she was the first person in the industry that actually helped me just reclaim my power, because I was putting so much emphasis and making sure that someone else had the answers. And I wasn't doing my own research and my own due diligence of figuring out how to solve this for me. So I remember having a conversation with a girlfriend a couple of weeks back, and she had told me that she was in the nail salon or the hair salon with a client. And she said that one of the stylists was talking to her clients about holistic health. At the time, I had no idea what that was, but I knew that I, at this point, had nowhere else to go. So I called her and I said, hey, can you give me that person's number again? Because at this point, I have no other options. So I called the holistic health coach, and I started, I scheduled an appointment with her. My very first appointment, she put this random like metal rod in my hand. And I was like, what the heck is this? And she started testing me, and she said, you know what? I want to give you some hope here and just let you know that IBS is actually a symptom. It's not a chronic illness. And on top of this symptom, you can actually reverse this. And I was just so grateful because I had no one ever told me that before. And on top of that, she told me a lot of it was stored trauma in the body that I didn't even know existed or had any idea of what that was either. So after working with her for 3 months, I also was working with a nutritionist, and I even started working with a trauma therapist. And I joined a program called Surviving Vegan Academy, where I learned how to pair my foods correctly, what to eat, when to eat, and how to eat. And within 90 days, I was symptom free. So it was my job. Thank you. My goal really was to learn more about the body. So I started networking with wellness practitioners, experts, and coaches on Instagram and Facebook. And I was just so amazed of how open and just vulnerable everyone was with me. And they all had a mission. They all had a vision. They all had a story that they wanted to share. but a lot of them struggled with getting their message out in a way that made sense to their audience. And they said, hey, like, I'm having so much trouble just communicating what it is that I do. And I'm like, I can totally get it, because if you were to tell me that you were putting a metal rod in my hand or you were going to hypnotize me, I probably would pass on that too. So one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that we did was, it wasn't just about what you did, but it was about how you communicated in a way that people felt pulled or drawn into what it is that you were talking about. And I knew that the best way to do that was through storytelling. And what better way to do that than through a podcast? So we launched the Holistic Sister Circle podcast last year. Next month will actually be 1 month old. And we're all about just getting wellness coaches, practitioners, and experts in the same room and being able to help our ladies heal themselves, because we believe that if they can access this information and they can assess their own body, then they can literally remedy any illness from the comfort of their home. So we do interview experts every single week, and our mission is really to help really our women. Normally they're the ones that are doing the cooking, they're the ones that are scheduling the appointments, and they are the ones that are really doing a lot of the research in this area for their children or for their spouse. So if we can get them to listen to what it is that we have to say, not only do we change their lives, but the next generation and their families behind them. So that's what we're all about. And I'm just so grateful to be here. And thank you so much for all of you all for sharing your stories too.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, Pierre. And I'm excited because we're going to do a podcast interview later today together. So I get to do it twice in one day.
Yes, we are. I'm so excited. And we have 10 ladies that can't wait to hear from you. And to actually piggyback off on that. So one of the great things about Melissa is too, is she's a breath of fresh air in so many adventures, which is amazing. So when we started talking, she did tell me that, you know, she also helps with just coaching and mentoring, especially ladies that are within the wellness industry. So we have 10 ladies that are super excited to talk to Melissa about their businesses and how they can help grow their topics and industries as well. So thank you.
That's
Beautiful.
awesome.
That's wonderful. And go ahead, Regina.
I was going to say, we could just call it a show here. I mean, we could stop right here. We've provided so much value already, but we're going to keep going. So, and I want to take from what Melissa said at the very beginning, before we came on air, you know, that all the girls matter, you know, and the overall health and wellness aspect that you all kind of have in what you're doing. So I want you to think beyond what we've shared so far. You've all been through a great deal of things, right? Every one of you had some circumstances that's brought you to where you are now. How do we take those circumstances of our lives and collaboratively create a broader impact for women and girls throughout the world? Now, you're all doing some of that already, but let's go beyond that. What else can we do? How else can we collaborate to bring these solutions to the world for women and girls? And let's just have a conversation. Melissa, let's see. Laura, then Billy. Let's go that way.
There's so much in what you just shared, and there's no single answer. But one of the things that I think has been so pivotal for me, and I think Melissa is a testament to this, and all of you are, I'm sure, is referring, connecting, reaching out. You never know where that next connection is going to take you. And I rarely advertise necessarily for content, because there are so many organizations out there really, and if we're going to focus on girls, that focus specifically on girls and growing girls' confidence and providing support for them so that they develop into young women that are independent, entrepreneurial, strong. Not that they weren't in the beginning, but there's so much of society pushing down, and we've all experienced that in different ways. And so I love the idea of being able to refer, connect, broaden that path in any way, and build that confidence so that our young women aren't afraid to jump in and try. And I think Jan sort of said this, or one of you said this, forgive me if I don't remember who, but just the idea that sometimes, I think it was you, Jan, when you've had a hard knock, and we've all had them, and I didn't share sort of the details of mine, but I've been through it too. You are forced to re-examine what has value. And so if we can get our girls to think about how they can start the value now for themselves, regardless of their circumstances, they will slowly put one foot in front of the other and rely on their village, extended village, and beyond, because we never do anything alone. So that's my 2 cents.
Love it. Thank you. Billy?
I mean, Veer said it perfectly, is storytelling. You know, there's so much power in a story, and we call it our hero's journey. You know, when we're going from Victim Island over to Solution City, there's that journey there, and that journey, there's levels of it. And it reminded me of a story for myself. I mean, my parents are from India. I was the first generation born here in Canada. And yeah, you know, I didn't have the life that I would have had my family decided to stay in India, because I went back there and saw where my parents came from, and would have likely been who I am today had I lived in India. And I had an opportunity to go back in 2019, actually to Nepal for a humanitarian trip. And it was through a company called doTERRA. They did some humanitarian work. And we went to build a water system, and we were up in this village, and it was a similar group of for women, for tweens, that, you know, we were teaching them how to take care of their cycles so that they didn't have to miss school. We gave them the reusable pads that we had made. And then they asked me, because I was a police officer, if I could do some self-defense training for these women, or these girls, I should say, because, you know, a lot of them didn't really even grasp the concept that their body was theirs. And as I'm sitting there, I'm teaching them some stuff. I kind of stopped and I looked around, and I was like, I could see me in them. So if I could see me in them, that means they can see themselves in me. And so I stopped and I just shared my story with them. And I said to them, I was like, look, my parents are from India, you know. My parents tried to get me married, even though, you know, I was born here. They tried to get me married when I was 18. And they wanted me to do all these things that, you know, I grew up with 2 brothers. Like, the girl stays at home, she cooks and cleans, and I was raised that way. However, I always listened to that voice that said, Billy, you're made for more. You're not meant to be small. And so I started sharing this story with them so that they could get that glimpse of, well, Billy's just like me. And they see this, you know, strong, powerful, confident woman up there. And if even for that split second they could feel that hope in themselves, you could literally change the trajectory of their life. So storytelling, I think, is so powerful. And when we go on each other's podcasts, and now that I'm starting this new career, I don't even care what your podcast name is. I'll just come. If you want me to talk, I'll talk. I will share my story with anyone and anyone that's willing to listen. And I think that's so powerful in allowing other people to share other people's stories on their platform. And that's where now, you know, I love, you know, my social media. I've created a new one for my company, Go.Mindspire. And I love sharing just, hey, I talked to this person today, and, you know, this value came up, and I'll share those information. And then when we can collaborate with each other and share our, you know, hey, you should go talk to Jan about this. And hey, I know this, you know, awesome woman named Laura. You should go talk to her about this. Or Pierre's got this great circle, and, you know, we're using Michelle's teas in our little welcome gift for our students now. You know, if we can share that among each other, I don't believe in competition. I believe 100% in collaboration. And the more ways we can do it, I think is just the more. That's why we actually called our group Amplify, because together we can amplify, and we're stronger together, as opposed to one little light here and there. If we all our lights together, we can just shine much brighter. So that's what I think.
Love that. Michelle?
Yeah, when I went to put the blog post together for this event, what came out of my fingertips was the research that came out of the 1930s and 40s, which is, in order for us to heal, we have to engage with someone else with the intention to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do, the enzymes automatically reboot themselves for the higher good, or for the ability to heal. And the enzymes know where they need to go. And so when we think about collaboration and we think about collaboration as businesses, and all of us are here to serve. So we're already with that idea of healing. So as people are listening and maybe they're on that journey of they haven't figured things out yet, they need help, they have the irritable bowel that hasn't been resolved yet, then to know that you can't get there unless you do collaborate in some way. And then making the choices of collaboration that is empowering for you, because it's really easy. And I love the stories today about, coming through where people don't have an answer, and then you're still looking for someone else to solve it. And we do have that capability. But if we keep in mind, we have this capacity within us that's already sitting there. It just needs you to say, I'd like to heal, and engage with someone else. And it can be the person next door over a cup of tea. And it can be with somebody who has the tools that you're looking for. And I just noticed with my body today, it'll respond with different things because of being on the internet since the pandemic. I really am in tune with what's happening with the body, but I have been in movement since we started, constantly sending healing. And one of the best tools that I got was therapeutic touch training, to realize that I can engage in supporting someone at all times. And I have the tools that I can do that with. And so I've just noticed which movement patterns my body wants to do right now in order to solve whatever, for whoever's listening that has a challenge going on. Just by listening, we're able to support you and start you on that healing journey. And so I just wanted to share that piece, because we wrap up into business, but also at the same time, we have this capacity to really engage ourselves in the process. So.
Excellent.
It's
Thank
beautiful. And I love how, even with being intentional with your teas as well, that they have, healing capabilities. And often, we might just have a drink and just drink it down and keep going with our day. And yet when we take the time to be intentional, we can shift so much. And I want to add to this conversation by simply saying that to the audience, never believe that a few caring people can't change the world, for indeed it's the only thing that ever has. And so when I go back and think of that mulling around in my mind of starting Girls Matter, it would have been very easy to go into that space of, well, who am I to do that? What do I know? How could I do that? And yet, as Billy talked to earlier, that pull that she wasn't meant to stay small. I had that pull that I was meant to do something. And initially, I just didn't know how. But then when I started talking to others and collaborating, that's how I found my co-founders and we got started. That's how Jen and I got connected. And again, I was talking, that piqued her interest, and she jumped in and said, I want to be part of this. And then Jan has expanded it even further, because she's brought in other connections that have helped us on the fundraising side of this. And Jan, I don't know if you'd like to just share briefly right now the latest fundraising opportunity that you've created because of collaboration.
Absolutely. One of the things that I learned from being a Jehovah's Witness for 38 years was the huge impact of community, because I was raised in community. I was not allowed to associate outside of my community. It's really a cult, but it's a community, right? So it's a very, very, very strong feeling that I have, that we want to be supported. And especially as we go through the trauma. I mean, I just lost my husband just less than 2 years ago. And going through what I did with him, with his illness, and then, again, deciding, what do I want to be when I grow up? It's been the community that's really supported me. And I'm absolutely thrilled with how many amazing people I have in my life. And one of them is a beautiful man, Rick Anson, who has founded a company called Euphoric. And Rick is the founder, he's the formulator, he's a genius from the standpoint of formulating products that really work. And when I met Rick personally and we started to talk, I knew I wanted to get involved in the company, because again, it's community. We get to support each other, and we get to support each other with an amazing product. And I still remember the day when he phoned me and he said, Jan, we've decided we wanted to have a not-for-profit or charity or some kind of contribution back. And it seems like all the people that you've invited into the company, they're involved in this thing called Girls Matter. And so we've decided that we want to support Girls Matter. And I still remember thinking, oh my goodness, like what an amazing thing, because this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar company. We're 35 days young, and he's already expanded into Mexico, and we're going into Europe. That's how fast this man works. Like absolutely incredibly and amazing. So I already have a team in Mexico, and I'm starting with a team in Portugal. So it is incredible. And we know that it's going to produce millions and millions of dollars, if not billions. And a portion of that is going to be going to Girls Matter. So it's that collaboration, which is so important. And for me, that African proverb where it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And that's really why I love direct selling. I've been involved in many, organizations. I've never been involved in one that is this focused on helping others and so progressive and gets stuff done at rapid speed, which means we're going to be able to help these girls at rapid speed as well, which is super important because they're not the only ones that need the help. There's a lot out there we do. So we need the money, we need the funding, we need the community, we need the collaboration.
Absolutely. There.
I actually wanted to add to that, like everything that you all said is so important, and just what I would like to add is just the importance of documenting the journey along the way. I think a lot of times, we're so wrapped up into what it is that we're doing and who we're talking to in our community that we don't really sit and think about who else may need to hear the message, even though they may not be readily available at that moment that we're giving the talk or the speech or whatever it is. And as we're looking to progress girls further, I think it's just so important that they see what you're doing in your community and they see it on a bigger scale. And even if it's a small even if it's a conversation with a small group of people, or if it's, a larger audience, whatever it is, but they can at least see the power of the community and how you're leveraging other people in your network in order to continue to build it out. And now they say, oh, okay, I see exactly what she's talking about. And she's not just talking, but I can actually see it come to life.
Excellent. Ladies, we are out of time. we can go so much further, but we are out of time. So we are going to, first I want to thank you all for your contributions. Just amazing. The work that you're doing and the way that you are giving back into the community is awesome. But we're going to move into our wrap up round now, and I'm going to ask Melissa to run that for us. And if we could keep our comments to a couple of minutes each on this part, that would be great. But Melissa, will you call on each person, including yourself, for final thoughts on collaboration and your contact information, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Regina. And I'm going to start with Dr. Michelle. If you could share your final thoughts and how people can get hold of you if they would like to learn more about the myriad of different things that you offer.
So I think I'd like to say for winding up in collaboration is for those people listening, think about who in your network of people who really inspire you, or that you look up to, or that you learned something from, and then figure out how you can have a conversation with them. And maybe it's over a cup of tea. You say, I just want to get together. And it's when you set those conversations up, you don't know where you're going, but the journey is so incredible when you find that final bit of conversation that pulls you together. So that's what I would invite. If you want to do it with Teas with Intention, then please check me out at the Cape Breton Tea Company, so capebretontea.ca. And otherwise, you can find me at thegreenwellcenter.com. And I have a wonderful YouTube channel that is full of all kinds of resources to do with movement and healing. And I hope that you'll take advantage of looking it up. And that's at Michelle Greenwell. And thank you very much, everyone. It's been so delightful. And Melissa, you are a go-getter. I so appreciate that. Thank you.
And Melissa, before you call on the next person, just let me say also that someone by the name of Joe CTM, I don't know what that stands for, says, lovely work, ladies. So, okay.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate that. And I'm going to ask Laura now, if you can share your information and final thoughts on collaboration, please.
Oh, thanks, Melissa. This has been joyful, I have to say, learning about everyone. I think my final thoughts are really a conglomeration of what everybody has said. Think about your why. And if you don't know your why, think about figuring out a way to find out, which is connecting with people, talking with them, putting it out there. If you put things out in the universe, it does come back in ways that will be so unexpected and beautiful. And reach out to your community and beyond. You never know where that next opportunity to, personally for me, to give back, which always leads to something more beautiful in the long run. I've learned so much from everyone here and from the work of Small and Gutsy. So if you do have an organization, nonprofit or social enterprise who you'd like featured, and it doesn't cost them anything but a couple hours on Zoom, reach out to me at either laura@smallandgutsy.org. You can go on my Instagram. You can also email me directly at lwitkoff@gmail.com. That's 2 T's and 2 F's. Listen to any of the podcasts. You can go on to our website and every episode is there. I'm on all the major channels. I am in the United States, but we do things globally. I've done several in Africa, Bhutan, South America. So wherever there is a need to help organizations be spotlighted, I'm there. It just needs to ask me and we'll arrange a time. And Melissa will be featured in a couple months, and I'll let you know when, Melissa, and you'll send it out to all of your social media. So thanks, everyone. This has been truly, truly a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Laura. And I'm going to bounce over to Vier now, please.
Yes, of course. So final thought I would say is find a way to get your family involved. Because at the end of the day, that's why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. We're doing it for our families and the ones that we love. So if you could find a way to get them involved, you're just better together. And in order to just connect with me further, info@theholisticsisтерcircle.com. We are on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and we are also on all major podcast platforms as well. So Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Stay tuned, find us there. And Melissa and I are actually going to be going live in a couple of hours as well. So please stay tuned to that episode as well.
Thank you so much, Vier. And that ties in beautifully to what Laura said about finding your why, because your family is your why. And with that, I'm going to bounce over to Billy.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Melissa and Regina, for organizing this. It's been so great. My biggest advice is, if you have a little voice inside your head that is saying there's something out there for you, listen to it. Now that I know that that little voice is actually your higher self and your unconscious mind, now it makes sense. And if you don't know what that is, just collaborate with people, reach out, and just try to find something that's going to send you somewhere in a different direction. And like Melissa and I, we're so different in so many ways, and yet we work so well together. And so if you can find someone to do it with, it's so much more fun than doing it all alone, because entrepreneurship is a lonely road. And so if you can find someone to work with, then do that. If we love working with coaches. So if anyone out there is a coach or is thinking of becoming a coach, or just has that drive to want to help, then reach out to us, because the work that we do, it's so fast and it's so quick, and it doesn't take years and years and years of going to school, which is originally what I was planning to do after I finished policing, was go back to school for 3 years as a counselor. Except this I got done in 8 days and in a few months once I got to my level. And so it doesn't have to be hard. And that's another thing I wanted to share, is that if it's hard, you're just not doing it right. Life can be easy. And when you are on the path that you're meant to be on, which I now know I am, because life is just flowing and things happen. So if you're coming up against things, that's the universe telling you that maybe you should just adjust course and pivot. So listen, because you never know where it's going to take you. And here I am a year later now, being, a brain trainer and teaching people about how to get connected to their unconscious mind from, 2 decades of police work. And so I just listen to your voice. It knows, your higher self knows exactly what you need, and the universe is very smart. So just listen. I would love to connect with anyone. My Instagram is go.mindspire. Melissa and I just launched a brand new Facebook group for free. It's called Amplify Results Coaching. We would love anyone to come in there. We share lots of information on little tips and tricks and of how you can start taking control of your life and really getting from Victim Island over to Solution City, because the restaurants are way better over here and there's amusement parks and it's a lot more fun. So yeah, stay off Victim Island. It's not as fun anymore. So thank you for having me. I so appreciate it. Thank you, Regina. Such a pleasure to meet all of you wonderful women too.
Thank you so much, Billy. And I'm going to pop up to Jan.
It's been an amazing group, and thank you so much, Melissa and Regina, for doing this. I think what's come to my mind right now at the end of all of this is, if you're thinking about playing small, stop right now. Just know how much the world really needs every single person. And I especially I'm in favor of the women really standing up. I'm working on a book right now called Living the Hell Yes Life. And my thought always is, like, at the end of the day, when you're laying on your deathbed, what are you going to be thinking? I could have, I should have, I would have. Oh, but I was dogmatic. I was skeptical. I didn't think it would work. I didn't, jump off the cliff. I was so always conservative, and I didn't do everything I wanted to do. And having just watched my husband pass away, let me tell you, that is not the time when you want to be having those thoughts and those regrets, because, then you can't do anything about it. It's now that we have that opportunity to go out and make that difference, to do the things we're here to do, and to live that hell yes life, so that when you're on your deathbed, you're going, you know what? I am used up. I am worn out. I am exhausted. And it was, wow, what a ride, as Hunter Thompson says in his famous quote, which I love. So we're doing that. And as we go out and we encourage other people to do that, it's really being a role model as we collaborate and create that community together, which is what I really love.
Beautiful. And how can people get hold of you?
They can reach me at jan@selllikeaqueen.com. I'm just getting back onto social media, so it's all like a bit of an overwhelm. It's not my most favorite thing to do, but I'm learning and I'm doing it, so that's good. So, jan@selllikeaqueen is probably the best way to reach me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jan. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for saying yes to my invitation to be here. I've thoroughly enjoyed this hour and these conversations, and I know there will be more collaboration with all of you, and I love that. Thank you, Regina, for this opportunity. And in closing, I just want to suggest that if people are not sure how to collaborate, or they want to and they don't know how to get started, join networking groups and be really curious. Ask questions about the other people that you're meeting. Get to know them. What are they doing? What do they stand for? And you're going to find very quickly the people that you resonate with, that you want to have in your circle. And it will just start to happen organically. That's how all of the collaboration that's happened here in this room today has happened, it's organically. I never set out to find someone to, join the Girls Matter board, or find a training partner, or I had to find someone with cheese, or I had to be on a podcast. Every single thing happened organically from beautiful conversations and connection. And it can be fun. So don't feel like this is work. It isn't. Allow it to be fun. And then that's when you'll find beautiful connections and beautiful collaboration. So thank you everyone for being here. If anybody wants to get hold of me, you can just find me at melissa@yourguidedhealthjourney.com, or my website, yourguidedhealthjourney.com. And as Billy said, our Facebook group, Amplify Results Coaching.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Wonderful show, ladies. And thank you to all of our viewers and those who've watched today and those who'll see it later. We really appreciate it. And have a great weekend. And we'll see you next time on Collaboration Conversations. Bye for now.
Bye.